Thank you for visiting ChristopherMedia.net. ChristopherMedia.net.
From Asthma Core Studios near Detroit, Michigan, it's Unregimented.
Gangsters, what's up, guys?
And now, here are your hosts.
Welcome to Unregimented number 294. I'm Chris.
I'm Aaron.
I'm Rich. You're rich, bitch. We'll get to that later.
Yeah, we were. I wish I would have seen the Chappelle show, but you guys can fill me in. I've heard so much about it. You guys can let me know how it really was. But let's get some of the little more serious stuff that I would like to talk about this week off the list, I guess, to begin with. Have you guys been following the news on Comey?
Here and there.
Actually, this is the inevitable retaliation that we knew was coming. The Department of Justice is basically taking exception to his handling of his memos.
As far as what did they not like?
Do you remember the memos that we're talking about? So he took notes with every meeting that he had with Trump, and then when he got fired, he took those memos with him, and he also handed those memos over to his attorney. So, I guess the first thing is, like, does the FBI consider Comey's personal memos to be FBI property? Right? He wasn't sitting down with Trump because he was doing an official investigation into Trump. He was sitting down with him to possibly head up the FBI.
I guess it sounds like a real gray area, kinda. Did he do it? Do we get into things like, did he do it on company time? You know what I'm saying? Like, well,
these are salaried employees with like life-consuming jobs where you have to be on call 24 hours, I would imagine. So I don't know if there's a clear definition of company time.
If you're like the director of the FBI and you're meeting with the president, wouldn't that count as a business meeting?
I guess, but does the FBI need to have domain over your notes from all your business meetings? It was more like a job interview when he was initially meeting with Trump. Trump was feeling him out, seeing if he was going to be a team player, and kind of dangling the directorship over his head. Like, hey, if you want to keep doing this, like,
I guess to me,
if you can, it's not really a job interview. If you're interviewing for, you don't interview to keep your job, right? It's more like a review, I guess, would be more appropriate.
I guess I guess to me, they have to define what classifies as FBI business, because with the nature of the FBI.
That's essentially what they're doing. The Justice Department is saying that Comey violated the law by taking these memos with him when he was fired, by providing them to his attorneys. So their stance is essentially that was FBI business, that was FBI property, that was classified info.
Well, that's where I'm getting. If you work for the FBI, couldn't technically everything you do be put under that umbrella as classified info?
Yeah, well, not everything.
Most things.
They point to one memo specifically that had classified info in it. This wasn't. I don't believe this is one that he turned over to his attorneys. No, actually. Looking at the list here, it definitely was not listed as one of the memos that he turned over to his attorneys, but it wasn't marked properly. If it had classified information on it, should have been properly stamped and probably approved in triplicate.
Well, if it didn't get released, why are there paintings in a bunch with that one?
Well, this is another. So they can point to it as mishandling of classified information. And when you can tag that onto all the rest of the stuff, then it seems like something real. So
my bugaboo would be if the things that he turned over to his lawyer had classified information, and what are you going to do? But if they didn't, like, you see what I'm saying? Like, it's a gray area, man. Like a really gray area.
It is, and there was a lot of talk about his handling of the memos when we started hearing about them. I didn't think that they were actually going to go there, but then, of course, the Trump administration is, if anything, petty. And, yeah, anything that they can use to fling some mud his way, especially because, even more so than Mueller. Mueller was the man who was appointed to this job. Comey was the man that America really wanted to do this job.
And if anything, the administration is ballsy. I saw something today that they said he's never lied. Okay, not even clicking on that. You won't win, internet.
I forget who that was. They were on CNN, and
his campaign press secretary.
That's who it was. She says the president doesn't lie, that the media lies. When you lie like that, you got to go all in.
What comedian was it, Rich? That always told you to stick with your lie.
Oh shit! Well, I mean, the famous one's Eddie Murphy.
Yes.
Deny. Wasn't me. AKA the Shaggy defense.
So actually, aside from the legality of taking the memos, handling of the memos, where they were distributed, that's kind of besides the point, right? Because if you're on Trump's side, you think Comey committed a crime. And if you're not on Trump's side, then you think he didn't. And that's more, it's more than just choosing a team, I think. It's about how you think about the law and those who enforce it. I think that even if I was to be convinced that Comey broke the law, they could show me exactly here's what they have to sign this contract. Here's what it says in the law. Here's how memos should be handled. If anything, I think most people in this country, regardless of what side they're on, they want more of a lawmaker, not a lawmaker, a law enforcer who enforces the spirit of the law rather than the letter of the law. And in the opinion of people who are not Trump supporters, James Comey, maybe he was breaking the law, but what laws was he really breaking, and in service of what? I know it's not I'm not saying that I want to justify all bad behavior. It's when you're trying to take down somebody like Trump, then everything's on the board. I don't believe in that. I don't believe that actually does the country or our system any good if we figure out an underhanded way to remove him from office rather than a completely above the board legal way. But in Comey's case, he had a president breaking the law right in front of him. That's what he saw. And if he ran afoul of some protocol in trying to preserve that information and make sure that could be possibly used as evidence against the president, I'm fine with that. I think that is more within the spirit of the law rather than adhering to the strict language in the law. But of course, it's the ultimate slippery slope, isn't it? You can use that to justify. Right. You could justify any type of behavior like that.
Yeah, I think ultimately people on both sides, all this is going to do is just erode more trust in the FBI.
All right, well, here's my thought. Well, according to the Associated Press, what he shared was not classified information. And he
did not share it. It was the handling of the memo that had classified information that they took exception to.
Well, according to the like I said, Associated Press, this is the quote. The watchdog office said Comey broke bureau rules by giving one memo containing unclassified information to a friend with instructions to share the contents with a reporter. Comey also failed to return his memos to the FBI after he was dismissed in May 2017, retaining copies of some at a safe at his home, and he shared them with his personal lawyers without permission from the FBI. Now, if they're not classified and he's reporting of wrongdoing behind the scenes, isn't he protected and it's not a classified document? Even though it is an FBI document, wouldn't that be considered him being a whistleblower, and aren't there laws to protect whistleblowers?
Yeah, you would think. I I don't know how that works in the FBI. I think it's a different situation. I imagine working at the FBI is much different from working at just about any place else. But yeah, you would think that he would be protected in some way as a whistleblower.
And as far as turning over documents to his personal lawyer, if he feels that there's some bullshit coming down the pike, of course he's going to turn his documents over to his personal lawyer. And the prosecution will know what documents that were turned over during discovery part of the process, if he's ever prosecuted. Or if it goes to, whatever, if there's a civil trial or some shit. I mean, so I don't understand.
Right, but I think that's why we get, violations cited in a report rather than them actually charging him with a crime and trying to send him to prison. It's just a smear job. They know they don't have enough. If they charge him and then he beats it, they look like assholes. If they just throw some mud at him, it's gonna, it'll stick initially, and that's all anybody will remember. Yeah,
because according to this quote from the report, they walked right up to the line of calling it illegal and basically just, their quote was in the report, but by not safeguarding sensitive information obtained during the course of his employment with the FBI and by using it to create public pressure for official action, he set a dangerous example for over 35,000 current FBI employees and many thousands more former FBI employees who similarly have access or knowledge to non-public information. Yeah, so in other words, naughty boy, you shouldn't have shared that, but we're not going to prosecute you.
You know what it is? They did to Comey exactly what they complained about Mueller doing to Trump, saying basically, well, if you have no evidence of him committing a crime, then why are you saying any of this stuff? That you shouldn't be talking about any of this, any of this evidence that you found. You shouldn't be talking about it because you've already found him not guilty. And then they turn around and do that exact same thing to Comey.
Yeah, I mean, it's because flat out, the end of one, the Justice Department has declined to prosecute Comey. So at this point, it's like, so why are they releasing statements basically smearing shit on the guy's name? Let someone else do the dirty work. Come on, don't look too crooked. Come on here. That's rule number one.
Because 24-hour news cycle, Rich.
The media, strangely, has the Justice Department's back on this because all the headlines I saw were talking about what Comey did wrong. And the headline should be what exactly you said just now. Justice Department refuses to charge Comey. That's the main part of the story. Everything else is secondary, but everyone puts on their headline, Justice Department rebukes Comey for his handling of memos.
Yeah, and I mean, the things that he released, I mean, this is just a quick glance at it. It was included a Trump Tower briefing in which Comey advised the president-elect that there was salacious and unverified information about his ties to Moscow circulated in Washington. Okay, we all know that. That's been in the media. Another one is a dinner at which Comey says Trump asked him for loyalty in an Oval Office meeting weeks later, at which Comey says the president asked him to drop an investigation into former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. That's a matter of public information. Okay, at what point?
Yeah, we've known all of this because his memos have been public. They're not trying to keep it silent. They're just trying to basically put the fear of the government. I was going to say God, but they want to put the fear of the government into anybody who wants to try this shit again.
Cool.
You are free to do as we tell you. You are free to do as we tell you. Go back to sleep, America. Your government has it all figured out. Ah, Jesus.
So, do you guys have an opinion? Do you feel like do you want your police officers and anybody who enforces the law in the country, do you want them to adhere to strictly what is in the letter of the law, or do you want them to basically bend the rules sometimes in order to adhere to what they believe is the spirit of the law?
However the court operates. What? You need consistency. If the courts are going to follow the letter of the law, I mean, the law the enforcers can bend the rules all they want, but when it comes to the court, how's the court going to interpret it?
Well, I think judges are. I don't know if this has always been the case in the U.S., but I feel like in recent history, judges have wide power to adhere to the spirit of the law. Their hands are tied in some cases if you have, if your crime reaches a certain level, certain number of people are hurt or killed or by their actions or something like that, or have a certain amount of drugs on them, then there is the law says, hey, you cannot charge them with less than this. But in most cases, judges' hands aren't tied like that, and that's, barring a jury, which most trials do not have, it's left up to the judge to figure out how to apply the law in the best way that judge sees fit. So if we can give that kind of leeway to judges, that kind of power, not even leeway, we've given straight up a lot of power to judges in this country. I think we could make similar exceptions for people heading up organizations like the FBI.
I just got to go with my feeling that I had earlier. To me, once again, just like you, I don't know the ins and outs of the law when it comes to whistleblowing as far as government organizations. But if he is covered under that law and the information leaked is along the lines of what I read, how do you even call that information leaked? That's an information confirmation.
Well, whistleblower refers to a person blowing the whistle on their organization. So if Comey wasn't the director and the director was pressuring him to do certain things that he felt were illegal, then Comey may be protected if he came out as a whistleblower against his boss. Being that in this case his boss is the president and the president is not a member of the FBI and is the president, I don't know if whistleblower status applies at all.
Well, I mean, technically,
but in spirit,
technically, Trump is his boss when he was the director of the FBI.
And he has the will to hire and fire the FBI director. So, yes, he is the boss.
And it is, I mean, to ask him for loyalty, that's kind of iffy, but to flat out ask him to drop an investigation for no more than, well, this is my buddy, that seems like an abuse of power. To me, that's a legit reason to blow a whistle.
Right.
Because that's
a small abuse of power in order to facilitate stopping a larger abuse of power.
It'd be no different. Think about it this way. It'd be no different if in the 70s there was a little blurb on page 7 of the newspaper that said, former Nixon aide says that he records conversations. Oh, well, that's no big deal, right? Well, in the right context, it's a huge fucking deal that can unseat a president. So, or better yet, if they just says record conversations, but it doesn't, go into all conversations without the other party's knowledge, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if he's willing to go, come on, he's my buddy. Don't investigate him. What else is he willing to do? That's setting a precedent of, that's an abuse of power. And the police, if they were looking at a drug kingpin, organized crime kingpin, would take that as that and fold that into a RICO case against them. That's, in fact, isn't that the definition of conspiracy? Sitting down behind closed doors and asking for stuff like that? Plotting stuff like that?
Yeah.
So... Well,
there's definitely a gangster element to Trump.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, this is... So, that's... Like I said, I'm kind of handcuffed by my lack of knowledge of the law when it comes to government agencies and what they have to follow. But if he is protected, I was his lawyer, I'd argue he was being a whistleblower. And I mean, in today's day and age, he can use all types of buzz phrases and words and say there was an imbalance of power and Comey felt pressured to do this because his boss asked him a favor. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I think there's an element that we are just not privy to, because I imagine if there's any chance of a whistleblower case being brought forth on Comey's behalf, the ACLU would be on it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't know. But this, again, adhering to the spirit of the law, whether or not Comey technically qualifies as a whistleblower, I feel like he should be protected for his actions. I feel like he is a whistleblower. I mean, first of all, this isn't mishandling of memos that we found out about. there was an investigation into him, and they found out he was mishandling memos and giving them to his. He came out on television and said this shit, right? He was like, "Here's the memos that I saved. Here's why I saved them, and I think you, the American people, would be interested in the conversations I had with our president." Sounds like a whistleblower to me.
A little bit.
Can we fast forward to next November?
You just want to get it over with, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, fuck
But,
it. Let me know what evil I got to live with.
Here's what's insane, though. Everything that I just said is wrong. All my opinions about Comey are wrong, because you can take the same thing that I said about him, replace Comey with Trump and his policies, and I would be 100% wrong. And because that's part of what this Trumpian mindset is. I don't care if he breaks the laws. He's breaking small laws. He's breaking nonsensical laws. So what? He's not adhering to the Constitution or the Bill of Rights. Well, that's because parts of it are outdated. We don't care about it anyway. That whole thing about accepting everyone in the country, even when you're tired and you're hungry and you're poor and all that bullshit, that was just PR. That's when we really needed people. We don't need any people now. We're full. So if Trump wants to go ahead and do things his way, because he's adhering to the spirit of America, he's not worried about these little laws getting in his way that were probably just made up by a bunch of progressives anyway. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's all we have is a letter of the law, and if we don't adhere to that, we have no system.
He's like that guy in Pee-wee's Big Adventure. The law.
Right. But then, how do you... If that's our attitude, then we would never have a whistleblower case. We would never be able to hold a lot of people and corporations accountable.
Yeah, don't disagree with you there.
So, yeah, I don't know. I still feel the same way about Comey. I just know that every excuse I can make, somebody on Trump's side can make that for Trump.
Yeah, we were both talking about the CNN article that said the Comey story pretty much says what you want it to, no matter what side you're on. You could interpret it either way.
Yeah. If you're against Comey, if you're for Trump, then you're against what Comey did, and you probably feel like he should be prosecuted. And if you're against Trump, then Comey's a hero, and even if he did do something illegal, it's excusable.
Can't we get more news like this, people? Everyone gets what they want. Let's get more stories like this. It's the chameleon of news stories.
Well, that's just it. Everyone is getting what they want. They are watching the news sources that are giving them exactly what they want.
Let's see what else could be like that. Trump gets arrested, but he gets to finish serving his term in jail. That'd make everybody happy.
I don't know how that would work, but sure.
Hey, man, all bets are off since January 2017.
Well, Trump has not been getting along with Fox News lately.
Yeah, I did see that. He's mad.
He's mad because they hired Donna Brazil and, I don't know, some other liberals.
Oh, no. Oppositional research.
Wait a minute. You mean Fox News hired some sacrificial lambs and punching bags?
Right.
We were going to sit there and take it and just cash the check with a smile?
Pretty much.
That's the thing. It's Fox News has always done that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they have a long history of hiring people that are willing to come on the show. Well, what was Hannity's old partner, Combs?
Yeah.
I guess
I think
enough.
Donna Brazil just matched their level of crazy. They're like, yeah, it might be different than us ideologically, but you're just as crazy as us. How about a job?
Donna Brazil is perfect for Fox because she does not process information. She has
no, she does not.
She has her, prearranged speech in her head, and she's just going to say it louder and louder and not actually listen to anything that she's being told. So she belongs on Fox.
I said that's pretty much the Fox News model.
They can have her. Look, you want to take some of these crazy liberals off our hands? please, by all means, Donovan Brazil can lead the charge.
Hey, can we send her that or send Fox that one professor that was like dancing the jig all over Twitter when Barbara Bush died? Because I mean, I just want to see her go at it with the. I just want to see her go at it with the fellow nut bags on Fox. She'll make her point and be like, "Bye," and just get up and walk off the set.
I can see that too. You know, every time some famous conservative dies, they're reporting on it, and he just comes out dancing in the middle, and they're like, "Get him off the stage." But it's all set up. It's like Jerry Springer, you know?
Steve Wilkos comes out.
More and more Fox News is
newscasters start taking off their high heels and whipping them at him.
More and more the Fox News is resembling the Gong Show. They're going to have Gene the Dancing Machine eventually come out and do a tap dance on Coke's grave. Like, yay, he's dead. See, this is how we all feel. We're all hypocrites. Yay. And then just Sandman will come out.
Love it.
It'd be like an amateur night, the Apollo. Sandman comes out with his broom. Get out of here. Get it. Yeah.
Trump will be there every morning with a big old bowl of peanut butter Captain Crunch.
Yeah.
He would eat that
Fox
Captain
News
Crunch.
doing lately.
Worst Captain Crunch. He would eat that shit too.
What? Yeah, exactly.
Whoa. That was hate speech, Rich. The worst Captain Crunch?
Man, peanut butter.
Do you not like peanut butter?
Not for breakfast. I don't know.
I'm with you on that, Rich.
It's kind of like, remember that the Cookie Crisp shit that we tried to lie to our parents and say it's a cereal. No, it's cookies. It's literally
I managed to get Cookie Crisp once, and then I regretted it. It was good. That first bowl was good, and I was like, "This is just totally unnecessary." Here I am, 8. Like, no thanks. Do we have any special?
I was a fat kid. I loved it. Give me a big bowl and a big spoon.
We probably poured chocolate milk in there too.
Hey, sometimes
for a penny in for a pound.
Well, actually,
as well.
Literally.
Well, chocolate milk on the cereal started after I discovered pot. Just put that out there.
Well, that's why I always, was it the chocolate Rice Krispies? You just let it sit for 2 minutes. Boom, chocolate milk.
Chocolate Rice Krispies are good for a treat every now and again.
Oh, all right. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail the conversation with my tasted cereal.
That's fine. Like Trump's a clown. We don't need to really spend a lot of time on him.
Unregimented.
ChristopherMedia.net.
You can get up to $700 this month, all while listening to music, or catching up on that podcast, or filling out the crossword, or brainstorming what to make for dinner. When you donate plasma, find your local CSL Plasma Center and donate today.
ChristopherMedia.net.
Unregimented.
I wanted to get to the vaping story because this has really been blowing up all of a sudden. And we are all vapists.
I'm going to vape you right in the mouth.
This is America, and we vape, and if you don't like it, you get out.
And we're also at various degrees of smoking, whether it's occasionally or not at all, or just in the past. We've had a previous relationship with nicotine before vaping was ever known.
But nicotine never bitched at me when I came home and I didn't bring it flowers for no reason. So it's a relationship that's relatively peaceful for the most part until those tumors start popping up. Well, that's not nicotine, but you get my point.
I don't know what to think of these stories. We've talked about this on the Weedsman, but a lot of this just sounds like faulty product, whether it's cheap coils that they use to actually heat up, the heating element in there that can have, toxic, that can be made of toxic metals that could get people sick, or just any of the ingredients in the oil or juice itself.
Or something is benign if you don't know what you're doing, is you get a temperature control coil, but you don't have a temperature control mod. And that's like it's like a big no-no for people that build their own coils. Like, don't use stainless steel coils unless you're going to use a temperature control mod. Because if you fire it on a normal mod, then I guess it like you said, it could release toxins. I mean, depending on the quality of the wire you're using for your coil. So, man, I didn't even think about that.
There's a lot of variables. What's that?
I don't build my coils. I buy them like a normal person.
Yeah, right. There's a lot of variables in there. I don't switch it up a lot. I don't experiment with juices or different types of mods or anything like that. I've been vaping the same stuff for years now, actually, and I've seen zero side effects. Doesn't mean that I couldn't eventually, but I have
you have asthma.
My asthma, yeah, I have asthma. It hasn't made my asthma any worse, and stupidly enough, I was smoking in the past when I had asthma, and I definitely see an improvement from that.
Well, just because I had to replace my setup, just getting this new setup about a month ago, and cutting back as well. My doctor thinks it's too little. I think it's pretty good, but whatever. I've noticed that, I'm not getting winded as easy, going up 2-3 flights of stairs. I'm not like, wow, I'm not even breathing heavy at all. You know what I'm saying? Like, whereas like I could be sucking wind, you know what I'm saying? Like sometimes like, woof, bitch, you got to move to the first floor. You know what I'm saying? Send you your food with a slingshot.
Right.
But,
because part of the big difference between smoking and vaping is that vaping doesn't paralyze the cilia in your windpipe. So that means that when you are smoking regularly, all those little hairs on the inside of your windpipe that take shit that may accumulate in your lungs and push it out are completely paralyzed. So that's why you only start coughing up shit when you quit smoking. As soon as you quit smoking, all those cilia come to life, and they start moving all that shit that's built up in your lungs and trying to get it out of there. So there's a big difference right there. But as far as this relates to what we've seen in the news recently, I mean, as of the story that I read today, they're saying 300 different cases across the nation. I mean, 300 sounds like a big number, but still really not.
Let's just do a percentage.
Yeah.
Well, there's also 350 million.
But
I'd
also
like to say real quick, they keep saying long-term effects are harmful. Yet most of these stories, I know the media, first of all, is doing this because it's sensationalism and it's a way to get people to click on shit. They go, teenager has breathing problems from vaping. We don't know the effects of long-term vaping. So-and-so, 17 years old. Okay, well, if he's 17, he hasn't been vaping for a long time.
Right.
All right.
And the points Aaron and I made on the Weedsman is, if it's a teenager, it's probably all black market.
Exactly. It's garbage. It's garbage juice. It's garbage equipment. It's knockoff equipment. It's probably bought at some fucking shitty-ass gas station or party store where they don't bother to ID. And surprise, surprise, those stores in those areas don't sell the best quality shit.
What?
I go to West Bloomfield and look for a 40 of St. Ides.
Well,
now go to
there's
Detroit.
so many things wrong with the reporting on this story. That's not even a story. On all of these stories, first of all, the fact that they're being all grouped together as one thing is wrong. I mean, we had cases of lung damage popping up in isolated areas across the Midwest. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, now it's all across the country. Yeah, well, of course it's all across the country. Because you know what's really popular? Vaping. You know what happens to people sometimes? They go to the hospital because they can't breathe. All right. So
I'd like to point out
no one's been able to point a direct link to it. They can just go, oh, they're having breathing problems, and they vape, and then it just goes into the bucket. Oh, now we have 300 of these stories all across the nation.
Yeah, I'd like to point out that we're causing a panic over something that is affecting 0.00009% of the population.
Right.
You know, if they outlaw vapes, only outlaws will have vapes. From my cold dead hand.
That's the thing, is there's very little consistency in the types of lung damage that's being reported. And there's other ways to damage your lungs than vaping.
Do you live in a big city? Do you breathe?
Yeah, there's that. There's just breathing the air. Yeah. And or just, having, I was born with asthma, although that's fairly common enough, you'd think that hospitals would be able to recognize that. But, I'm sure there's stories of like, well, the Juul gave him asthma.
Yeah, all of these stories, to me, like, you're right, the reporting is bad because all of the stories tend to say that the doctors are like, we can't say it for sure, but the one thing that we've isolated in these patients, the one behavior is vaping, but they can't say for sure.
Yeah.
Speculation. Right,
and all these links to lung damage and Juul are stories that are being reported by the person who experienced the lung damage. Who, these people are not doctors. There's a story about an 18-year-old kid who had a hole in his lung, and the headline is, "Teen blames Juul for lung damage." Why the fuck do we care what the teen blames? Is it fucking Doogie Howser? If not, then why do we need to listen to his opinion about what he thinks put the hole in his lung?
It's not Doogie Howser, it's Benny. He got the diagnosis about the hole in his lung from Doogie Howser, his best friend.
It's like taking your car to the shop and like, something's wrong with my car, is not stopping right anymore. Well, you need new brakes. Oh, so somebody's tampered with my brakes. No, they just wear out and you need to replace them. So my neighbor came over and filed my brakes down because he's an asshole. I bet you that's what happened.
I got this hole in my lung from vaping.
Are you?
I got this hole in my lung from vaping, and Mom and Dad ruined my entire life by not letting me go to that party. Same thing.
Yeah.
You're fucking 17. You don't know shit about shit. Pull up your pants and shut the fuck up.
Pull your pants.
Sorry. I'm sorry. Even at 17, when I was spitting some bullshit, I knew I was spitting some bullshit at a certain point. But, just like with Trump, sometimes you get so mired in the bullshit, you just got to go, well, fuck it. Just keep digging. We'll come through on the other side eventually.
Dude, I'm 40, and there's some times I'm like, man, I'm spitting some bullshit here.
So I'm just like, yeah. And by the way, I don't know if it was the same story. Probably not, because this story got taken down after this. It was one of these web things. I cannot remember the name of it, but the story was that this 18-year-old who'd been vaping since he was 15 was hitting his vape and the coil exploded. First of all, no, that can't happen.
No, the battery exploded, not the coil.
Yeah.
And we'll see, they made a point of saying coil because a piece of the hot coil somehow traveled into his mouth, down through his esophagus, into his lungs, settled at the bottom, and burned a hole in his lung.
Yeah.
So these coils are made
that
of.
Can happen if you buy shitty batteries.
Well, first of all, that's the other thing. When they show video of like, watch this person's vape explode in their pocket, they were carrying batteries outside of a case with loose change. Do I need to tell you how electricity works? Do I need to tell you what happens when you connect a circuit and a battery overheats? Come on now. Same shit could happen if you were dumb enough to try it with a fucking cell phone battery. Right. But they never say any of this shit.
We've had cell phones that blow up on people, and nobody said, we need to ban these cell phones. These are a health risk. They're blowing up on people.
I'm so glad that when I started vaping, a buddy of mine that I worked with at the time, like, gave me the crash course, sent me to a store where he said, any questions, just tell them you're new, tell them you're a friend of mine. They're not going to fucking treat you like you're at the comic book store or in High Fidelity coming in asking for a Stevie Wonder record for your daughter. They're going to talk to you like a human being. Listen to what they say. You won't have a problem. I've never had a problem. Never had a problem. Because it was explained to me. I mean, even when it comes to building coils, they're like, you have a smartphone? Yeah, go to this address, bookmark this. This is a chart, Ohm's law, et cetera, et cetera. This is your safe zone. This is your not safe zone. This is how you do this. All this shit. Now, what happens if you just go to a party store? And it is, by the way, people not in Michigan, that's a liquor store. I've noticed more and more in the low end.
No. Party stores only sell beer and wine. Liquor stores are liquor stores. That is a Michigan, I have learned travel in this country, that is a Michigan thing where you can just get beer and wine, and it's called a party store.
Oh, okay. Well, basically what I'm saying is they're selling these setups that I'm like, really? Okay, let's look at their inventory. They have the little plastic roses with the glass stem pipes.
Yeah.
I mean, holders. They have Charboy, they have shoelaces, they have socks, and they have spray can, or cans of spray paint. Am I going to trust something from this store, or is this a place where crackheads shop?
Yeah. And I'll make you a deal. I won't buy liquor at the vape store, and you don't sell vape shit at the liquor store.
Yeah, because the guy behind the counter barely speaks English, and that's not a knock on him for that, but if you're starting off, you want clear and concise communication.
Yes.
What to do and what not to do. And if you're sitting there going, I can't understand you because he sounds like Surge from fucking Beverly Hills Cop, that's not going to help you, And yeah, you're going to fuck yourself up. It's real simple too if you have an unregulated mod, which if you don't vape means a mod that will only fire at what it's set at. If you have one that's unregulated and you don't know what you're doing, you could easily blow your hand off. But you can do that fucking around with fertilizer and fuel. So, I mean, do we stop selling those things?
Hey, you can do it with firecrackers.
Yeah, I forget. And those are legal as fuck.
Right. So there's almost no consistency in the reports of damage. So although I guess it came out today, the FDA is investigating Juul specifically, saying that there might be a possible link to seizures. I don't know where they're getting that information from, but people point at that like, we'll see. That's just another story. Like, this is dangerous. This has nothing to do with any of the reports that we've seen about these hospitalizations. They were all due to lung damage, not seizures. And even then, you want to talk about something that's hard to prove what's causing it. Seizures has to be like tops on the list. Sometimes there's a very definite reason why someone has a seizure, and other times it's just like, we don't know. It's the fucking brain. We don't know a lot about it. And you're going to tell me that you're going to prove that there's a link between vaping and seizures?
Well, I think the really sad and kind of scary part about all this is if Juul is found to have been using substandard product, ingredients, whatever, doing some fuckery behind the scenes, that's just going to trickle down to the smaller companies that actually do play the game the way it's supposed to be played and it's regulated.
That is a possibility, but I don't feel like that would be the case. I've never used a Juul product, but I can't imagine Juul being the biggest vaping product on the market currently, and they have every reason to be really careful. I mean, this is still a pretty much unregulated product. I think it's not a question of whether there'll be further regulation on this product. It's just going to be how strict it ends up being. Is it possible that a big company like Juul could cut some corners that could harm their consumers? Yes. It's a story as old as time. It's totally possible. I just don't see it as likely. It would have to be run by some really stupid people. And, the CEO was on the news today talking about how anyone who doesn't have a relationship with nicotine shouldn't start one.
And of course, that was he will be the ex-president of Juul soon by making that statement.
Well, look, he made a very reasonable statement. I don't think that's going to affect him internally. He can't help how news organizations are reporting on it, which is Juul CEO says stop vaping.
If it affects sales, he'll be toast.
That's a possibility, but I think that first of all, I don't think it'll affect sales. And even then, how could you prove that his words were directly affecting sales in ways that the FDA investigation and all these reports across the nation haven't.
Fair point.
If anything, I think that the whole reason he's out there is to do damage control, and I think he did it pretty damn well. But yeah, could a CEO say something innocuous, have it misreported, and then be fired over it? Oh yeah,
it's 2019, of course.
Oh yeah, Papa John's.
Yeah.
So, I'm not trying to be naive on this. I'm just all I can do is go with my gut feeling on this. But, with no evidence of Juul having done anything wrong or having made a poor product to date, everything else is just conjecture.
And doesn't this all just tie back to we don't like smoking? This is just another version of smoking. I sent you guys an article today. They're already starting to talk about secondhand vape smoke.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, get the fuck out of here. See, whatever.
Right.
Just fuck off. Fuck all the way off.
You couldn't... Well, look, they couldn't prove secondhand smoke harmed anyone, and yet that stuck. So...
You know what the big... And I've over the years on this show, I've done this. I broke down how I run into these people that are willing to talk about this, and I break down their bullshit arguments because the first 95% are bullshit, and we get to the real 5%, which is, I don't like it, man. I don't smoke. It makes me stink like cigarette smoke. It gets in my hair. It gets in my clothes. I just don't like the smell. Okay, wonderful. Hey, we have this thing called vaping. It's going to smell. You're going to see a bunch of people standing outside a bar when it's cold, and you're going to think, oh, these are hard asses smoking. Nope. Because, ooh, that smells like they're making blueberry muffins. Who could get mad at that? Now all of a sudden, we got to switch our fucking tactics. We're sure that secondhand vape smoke, it's not smoke in the first place, but that's never stopped the media, is harmful. What proof do you have? We're pretty sure it's harmful.
Outlawed it. That's our proof.
Yeah, San Francisco, where you can shit on the street legally, but you can't smoke or vape legally. Yes. I'd rather walk through a cloud of secondhand smoke than step in a human pile of shit.
I could take a dump at the corner of Haight and Ashbury, but vaping is bad.
They're mad. The non-smokers are mad because they feel like the vapists found a loophole in the system. It's like they said, I don't think that the gay sex should be legal because it's immoral and it's, against God's plan. And then a bunch of gays went on their lawn and air blew each other like, oh, I'm not actually sucking him. You can't get mad at me. I'm not actually touching his dick.
So the same people that used loopholes, bad science, and outright bullshit to get their way are upset that the people they fucked over have learned and started using their tactics against them? Oh, Jesus Christ. Hope that none of these people are in the military. That's all I'm saying. What the fuck you expect to happen? Seriously. And I'm not on some pro smoking. I should be able to smoke in your face while you're trying to eat a fucking $200 dinner. I'm not on some shit like that. But it's just really, it was never enough. Okay, we can't smoke in restaurants. All right, that's fair enough. If someone's trying to eat, I can get where that's annoying. Okay, well, we don't want you smoking in hospitals. That's probably not the healthiest habit. Or maybe airplanes pumped with air. Oxygen. Okay, whatever. Even though how many blew up due to smoking. Well, it's really annoying you smoke in a bar. You know what's really annoying? That you're still breathing my air. Go fucking die somewhere. Fuck off. Really?
Well, you can't prove them wrong. They're just going to double down. I mean, just like secondhand smoke. They pushed secondhand smoke for years with no statistics. And when people started finally calling them on their shit and going, okay, where are the deaths? Where are the cases of lung disease? Show me the people who have been affected by secondhand smoke. And they just go, oh, well, we don't even need to talk about that anymore because let's talk about third-hand smoke.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the smoke that seeps into your carpet and then you move out and somebody else moves in and they might get cancer. Okay, well, show me the people who got cancer from that. Well, what about fourth-hand smoke? When future generations are getting sick from cigarette butts that have been thrown across the earth. It will never end.
This is why it just doesn't. It sucks to say this because it means they're going to get their way. But as if they get their way and they stop, I guess that's fine. I don't know, but it doesn't pay to fight with these people, to argue with them on a personal basis, to try to convince them otherwise, because they just, like you said, and if they, well, smoking affects the spirits in the seventh dimension. Shut the fuck up. How many times removed are you going to go with smoke, trying to prove a point? You're absolutely right. And by the way, I remember when you brought up third-hand smoke. I laughed my considerable amount of ass off. I was like, are you serious that they're trying this shit now? Mm-hmm. I mean, come on, man. Well, okay. So they get rid of vaping, they get rid of smoking. I'm wondering, does that mean we're going to see a spike in people with chewing tobacco? I mean, how do you ban that? Because if you know what you're doing, you can have that in your mouth and people don't know unless they see you spit.
Oh, right. Well, how many people do you think, if the government said, that's it, no vaping products, they're all illegal, you can't buy them legally anywhere in the U.S. How many people do you think, how many people would then go, I guess I'll wean myself off of this and then just stop vaping?
I'll start buying it overseas. They have it mailed to me. I have an internet connection and a mailbox.
They will do, they have many options. You can buy overseas, which means you have an even less regulated product. You can buy it on the black market, which has zero regulation. You can go back to cigarettes, which has no harmful side effects. You can go to any number of other tobacco products, which have a long history of known side effects. Now, I want people to study this. Look, there's millions and millions of people vaping now, and it's just growing. We should be looking at this. We shouldn't be reacting in a knee-jerk fashion, but until there's a doctor, until either A, I see negative side effects for myself, or B, have a doctor say, look, this is what we found. We found these side effects. No might turn into something into the future. No, we don't know the negative side effects. We don't know the negative side effects of a lot of things, right? That's kind of our MO as a species, not knowing the side effects of our actions.
I mean, look at the energy drink market.
Later, usually when it's too late.
Look at the energy drink market. No one seems to have a problem with that. And how many of those ingredients have more than 10 letters? But we're fine with that. We're fine with shit that give you heart palpitations. We're good with that because we drink it. Everybody drinks.
I mean, in the end, I don't think that we're going to see a lot of restrictions on this. I'm sure we'll continue to see increased regulations. We'll see a homogenization of the product, but I don't think we're going to see it go away. If anything, it'll just go up in price because it'll just be syntax to all hell.
Well, and I just keep going back to this. We all knew this was coming with vaping. Once they can't nail down something with some non-peer approved bullshit study that got published by some irresponsible medical magazine or journal, they're going to go to what every fucking piece of shit scoundrel who's trying to get their way goes to: the children. Because all the pearl clutching and hand wringing I see over this is not for adults that vape. It's, oh my God, children are vaping.
Yeah, all of the stories have been about teens.
Yeah, and it is funny when I have noticed this, and I kind of think it's due to Todd's podcast, because I've started to kind of read between the lines. You read the headline that says, teen admitted to hospital for vaping-related lung issues, or children are being admitted to hospital for vaping-related lung issues. And then you start to read the article and you find out these children are 16, 17. Is it really a child? I mean, I know that in the eyes of the law, you're still a minor. But I mean, wouldn't it be more accurate to say teenagers? But that's not going to get your sympathy, and that's not going to get... You get the busybody housewife whose life is so fucking
it's not devoid
of devoid of fucking any type of real adversity that she can get upset over a headline of an article she didn't bother to read. Children are vaping. Really? You know how many? I drive through Shacktown every day. Pretty much one of the worst areas in the area I travel every day. You know how many kids I see vaping? None. I don't see any kids vaping. It's not like it's an epidemic on the street corners.
Well, you don't see 8-year-olds hitting their mots?
No.
Juul is being proactive about this. You know, I think any smart business that's looking at possible government regulation is going to try and regulate itself first to avoid that. And Juul has the new age verification, some kind of electronic age verification system. And they actually are offering incentives for retailers to use them as well.
Yeah, and I actually read if you don't have it by 2021, they won't let you sell it.
Yeah. So, you know, Juul, this idea that Juul is marketing to minors and non-smokers, I think that's been completely debunked. If you listen to their CEO and you look at the actions that they're taking, they don't seem predatory in the least. They're just trying to fill a need, a growing market for vaping products.
I think it was about 4 years ago. I had a coworker come in. He was 17, and he sat down a mod. And I was like, "Wait, you smoke?" And he goes, "No, never smoked a cigarette in my life." I'm like, "Why the fuck are you vaping?" He's like, "Oh, it's zero nicotine." I'm like, "Who the fuck sold you this shit? You're 17. What do you need it for? Why? First of all, why are you vaping zero nicotine? What is the point of that?" But second of all, I was like, "Who sold this to you?" And he's like, "Oh, one of the local shops." Not anymore. You walk in and you even I've been in the local shop in Wayne. You walk in, you even look remotely close to 18. He's an ID. He don't let you get to the fucking counter. Let me see your ID. If you're not 18, you can't even be in here later.
Well, and if the media is really concerned about keeping minors from vaping, then they just need to push more stories like vaping is the hottest new thing for Gen Xers and baby boomers.
There you go.
Just throw out some numbers about how, because it is true that's a demographic that vaping is booming. It's not, all these products aren't just being sold to teenagers. Very few of them are being sold to teenagers. If they actually were posting numbers of how much Gen Xers and baby boomers were vaping, then teenagers wouldn't have want anything to do with it. I mean, look at what we're seeing with marijuana. It's everyone who's against marijuana legalization in any way, that's their first argument. Oh, well, it's going to make it easier for kids to get it. Oh, is it? Because the numbers don't show that. Actually, the more open older generations are about talking about and using cannabis, the less millennials and younger generations want to be involved with it.
Good. Fuck off.
Yeah, more for me.
Drive the prices down because demand isn't high. That's right.
Yes.
Finally, I can go into a store to buy something and not hear music geared towards 14 to 25-year-olds. You know? Well, I can be like, "Oh my God, what is this, a Dust Brothers tune? This is the jam." You know? Did I walk through a portal to 1995? What the fuck happened? That is funny. I never really thought about it that way. You have to be obstinate and just on your teenage bullshit to the extreme to be like, "No, man, I don't smoke weed because older people do it. I'm going to get fucking high. I don't give a fuck if the devil does it. You show me a picture of Hitler smoking a joint, I'm still going to smoke."
I'm not saying they're not getting high. They're just getting high on other shit.
Yeah, well, I used to too, but there's an expiration date on a lot of that shit, so enjoy it while you can, kids. You will have to stop one day. Oh, God.
Unregimented.
ChristopherMedia.net. ChristopherMedia.net.
Unregimented.
Stand-up special, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, unfortunately, I have not watched it. I'm not going to say I didn't have time to watch it because, come on, but, you know, I not like I didn't watch any TV in the last week.
Well, just before we get started, I will
didn't
say,
make it to my playlist.
I will say this. I heard you and so many other people talking about Mindhunters. I actually started it. And I had to force myself to stop watching that to go watch the Dave Chappelle special because I figured we'd all were going to talk about it because I better watch the fucking thing. So
Mindhunters is pretty addictive. I've been plowing through season 2.
Yeah, so. But anyways, yes, the Dave Chappelle show.
Yeah, so he's getting a lot of flack over this new stand-up, right? I mean, I heard a clip from it where he was doing an impression of his audience.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite part.
Yeah, he's basically doing a takedown of cancel culture.
Yeah, because you are the worst people I've ever tried to entertain in my life. That's why I don't be coming out and doing comedy. Yeah. And they were laughing.
Oh, yeah. They're eating it up.
No, I thought it was great. I had it watched by 8 o'clock Monday morning. Little delay on the runway, but it was, man, he's sharp as ever. And the stuff that he's getting most of the flack over, you would think it would be, his stuff about the alphabet people, as he likes to call them. But it's been pretty much all, at least what I've read, it's been all blowback on the Michael Jackson stuff.
Oh yeah, that's right. He was saying that he doesn't believe the Michael Jackson accusers.
Yeah, but when you get to the punchline, it was a bit.
I kind of think it was a bit too, but in the question and answer afterwards, one of the questions the audience asked him is, tell us your favorite Charlie Murphy story. And he goes, favorite? I can't. He goes, but since I did talk about Michael Jackson, I can tell you this one. He goes, me and Charlie were hanging out. Charlie comes up and goes, hey, Dave, if pussy was illegal, how long would it take you to go to jail for breaking the law? And he was like, I don't know, probably pretty quick. He's like, that's why I don't think Michael Jackson fucked them little boys. Implying that if he was doing it, he'd do it enough to get fucking busted. So I'm like, Dave Chappelle's kind of a conspiracy guy. Maybe he thinks this is like one of those Hollywood conspiracies. You know what I'm saying? Like,
but you could also argue Michael Jackson had a lot of money to cover that shit up.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I'm trying to follow the logic here, though, but I know it's just kind of a joke, but what he's saying is like, if Jackson was into that, his behavior would be so compulsive, it wouldn't be these like rumors and stories that we would have real evidence.
Yes, and then of course, after I saw that bit and I thought about it for a minute, I was like, well, money will shut a lot of people up. Just look at the Catholic Church. I mean, how many settlements and how many families have been paid off through the fucking, hundreds of years they've been around that we don't know about, that we don't hear about, And yeah, Chris, you're absolutely right. I was like, Michael Jackson had a lot of money. So yeah.
My favorite part of that bit, though, was like, hey, sometimes you got to learn there's no such thing as a free trip to Hawaii.
Yeah, and he did.
God.
And I like when he's like,
don't look a gift chimpanzee in the mouth, huh?
Don't look that gift anus in the brown eye. But yeah, he was like, half the people in this crowd have probably been molested or sexually assaulted. But Michael Jackson didn't suck none of y'all's dick.
Yeah, he said, but the best you get is an awkward Thanksgiving for the rest of your life.
Yeah, these kids get to go to school and say, what happened on the weekend? Michael Jackson sucked my dick.
God.
And he said, if that's your first sexual experience, you can only go up from there.
And I'm thinking, is this bad era Michael Jackson or black and white era Michael Jackson? Because one makes you cool and one makes you a pariah.
Yeah.
No one likes that black and white song. Get the fuck out of here.
But what I find ironic, though, is because I was talking with Mandy about it this morning, and she watched it, and she's like, people are mad at that? I'm like, yeah. She's like, why? I'm like, the Michael Jackson stuff? She's like, they were jokes. It was funny. It's like, I know, but the people that are bitching about it, they do not understand. They are just making his bit about the audience sucking. They're just proving him right. No sense of irony.
Right.
Well, how many times does it have to be said? And I love when he said it. He goes, and if you got mad at any of the jokes I said in this special, remember, you clicked on my face, motherfucker. In other words, I didn't kick open your door and force you to listen to this set at gunpoint. You came looking to get offended. You found what you were looking for. Bully for you, bitch.
Yeah, or even worse, like you paid to come see it. Don't be you freely gave money. You used your free will. You left the house. You came to the show. You watched it.
I mean, look, I don't think he's a hateful person. I don't think he has ill will towards any of the groups he goofs on. And he actually, I mean, of course, I was going to say this got whitewashed, but that's a poor choice of words because I'm not trying to make a pun here, but he went pretty hard on the opioid epidemic by comparing it to the crack epidemic. And he's like, black people don't care. We went to this with crack. It's okay. So poor white people are getting fucked up. So what do you expect us to do? Like, and he basically fucking broke it down in a way that was like, don't have much sympathy. Where was all this? It was a criminal act until it was your kid. Now it's a health crisis, something we've known for 40 fucking years. And I was like, bam, right there. It's the truth. Now, why am I going to get upset by the truth, even if you said it in an amusing way?
The hole you could punch in that is doctors aren't prescribing crack. But I understand what you're saying.
No, well, doesn't somebody have medicinal mushrooms now? How long until medicinal cocaine?
Right.
And at that point,
we already did that. That was a long time ago.
Yeah. When we say make America great, we mean when they put Coke in Coke, like I drink a Coke and all of a sudden I'm more productive at work. Yeah, I bet you are.
But another favorite bit was the Juicy Smollett.
Yeah.
Juicy Smollett.
This French actor, Juicy Smollett. Y'all might have heard of him.
I love when he talked about that they were saying that the black community was getting called out by the gay community by not supporting him. And he's like, what they didn't realize is by us not saying anything, we were supporting him.
Because we knew he was full of shit.
Yeah.
Which, when he breaks it down, it's like, yeah, it is. He's like, wait a minute. So you went out at 2 a.m. in 16-degree weather to go to Subway, got jumped by 2 white people in MAGA hats who just happened to have a rope on them?
Yeah, he said, what'd you get mugged in 1885?
And he goes, the cop stands up and goes, hold on a sec, Juicy. Frank, come here. We're on the lookout for a person in Chicago with a MAGA hat. Find out where Kanye West was last night. Yeah. It's like, he's like, that's not MAGA country, which is something we pointed out. Like, really? The area of Chicago they're talking about?
But the people who live there were pointing that out right away. Like, a bunch of black and Jewish people live around here. What the fuck is this guy talking about?
Yeah, he does it. He does a good job of being like, how full of shit are you comfortable with being? This is what I got from his. Like, a lot of times during the show, if you watch his body language, like he'll tell a joke and he'll kind of do that slumping forward, kind of like laughing to himself, but then he'll like kind of turn his back on the audience. Like, I don't think he's a comedian who has studied the art well enough to know that he's basically calling the audience out through this whole special going, you people are the ones that let this shit keep happening. We're up here trying to entertain you. Mm-hmm. What the fuck is your problem? Why are you letting these people stop you from having a good time? People who, by the way, don't really care about any of this shit unless they can push some agenda or something. And that's the genius of the special, I think.
This is why Dave Chappelle is in a special category. He goes in the same category as somebody like George Carlin. Not just a provocateur. Like, Eddie Murphy was a provocateur, right? He said racy shit. He talked literally about race. He talked about sex. He talked about homosexuals in very derogatory ways. But he was more like kind of like an Andrew Dice Clay. Right, he's just saying what a lot of people in the country were thinking anyway. Dave Chappelle and other comics like him they're not trying to voice what people are thinking. They're trying to tell him what they should be thinking. He's voicing his own opinion, but he's also trying to kind of convince you that you should come around to his way of thinking, and he's kind of laying it out for you.
Yeah. He's going, hey, you might be full of shit.
And that's something that George Carlin was very effective at. Kind of stripping away the bullshit from things that, subjects and ideas that people encounter in their everyday life, and they've taken for granted, or they've lined up on their side and they're with their team on the issue, and he's not coming in with a team on his side. He's an actual independent thinker. Look, do I agree with him about Michael Jackson? No, but I feel like he should be free like anybody else to have their opinion about Michael Jackson.
Yeah, I ain't mad at him. I ain't canceling Dave Chappelle over it. You have a different opinion than me.
Well, I think there is another parallel like Carlin. He seems to be getting less and less capable of dealing with the horse shit the older he gets. Mm-hmm. Because Carlin, by his last special, I remember watching like, God damn. If this dude dies soon, and this is the last thing that people are going to remember him for, they're going to be like, Carlin was mad before he died.
Well, right, and Carlin went through a similar change. It's just, I don't think he did it as publicly as Dave Chappelle did, and not as dramatically. But, Carlin used to be the clown. He was the hippy-dippy weatherman.
Oh, yeah.
And at a certain point, he realized, you know what? People aren't laughing at me for the right reasons. And I can be funnier just being me. And, Dave Chappelle realized that he had a meltdown and a decade-long hiatus to figure that out, but he got there.
I think one of the funnier things is the accusation from Vice of misogyny.
Oh, what? Well, first, it's from Vice, so sure. What's the accusation?
No, it's just I heard Michael Rappaport's retort to that, and the only thing I can think of that was vaguely misogynistic that could be taken that way, like as a direct attack upon women, in one of his jokes when he was talking about the description of the R. Kelly tapes and how apparently R. Kelly likes to talk about the 14-year-old pussy he's inside of while he's inside of it.
He was but he was.
Well, hold on, because then he goes, Robert, never say, there's some good 14-year-old pussy while you're being videotaped fucking. Say, there's some good 36-year-old pussy while you're being videotaped fucking. And then he lets the audience laugh and he goes, but we all know that 36-year-old pussy ain't good pussy anyways.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, he's going to catch hell for that.
Rich, what did you think of his bit about the alphabet people? I thought the way he laid it out was brilliant.
Yeah, and I mean, he kind of was legit. The alphabet people is LGBTQ
right
plus, and he said, basically he said,
imagine a car ride.
Yeah, the G's are driving the car
because they're the white guys. They'll know the directions.
They're like, we know this road. We built this road. He goes, the L's are in the passenger seat. He goes, everybody loves the L's except for the G's. He goes, then the B's are in the back seat. But the G's and the L's hate the B.
He said, but the B's, I'll fuck everybody in this car.
He goes, and then the T's are just sitting kind of looking out the back window at the world going passing by.
Yeah, he said the T's are like the most high maintenance passenger. They're like, I'm hot.
Could you stop? I need to use the bathroom. Motherfucker, there ain't a bathroom you can use legally for 4 states. Shut up.
And his whole point of the bit was the tease. He said basically the other people in the car would be like, shut up, you're making it harder to get where we're going. Which to me I thought was the brilliant line that tied it all together.
Yeah. Even though I did appreciate the Q's hitchhiking.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
When he was doing it, I was just like, picturing like Matthew McConaughey hitchhiking, just a really horned up Matthew McConaughey who doesn't care who he fucks.
Sure. He's like, I'm not sure, but I know I want to be in that car.
Yep. I want to fuck somebody in this car, but I'm not sure who. No, and I mean, the story he told about his 6 nights in St. Louis. San Francisco. I think it was a San Francisco comedy club. And he goes, there was a trans woman who showed up and sat up front for 4 of those shows. And he goes, and she laughed her ass off at everything. He goes, and when I told trans jokes, she laughed. And he goes, it was funny because a few of the people in the club would like turn and look and see if she's laughing. Because if she's laughing, okay, it's okay, we laugh. Which I thought, I was like,
knock it off, San Francisco.
Well, that's the one part I was like, I think he kind of missed something, because it's like, if you're going to tell a black joke, you got to look around first, or if you're watching the Boondocks, is this okay to laugh at? Oh, my black friend laughed at it. Okay, it's okay. But hey, come have a drink with me, sat and talked, was like, look, I hope you understand, I'm just telling jokes, I'm not trying to offend you. And she goes, no, you didn't offend me. She goes, what I was shocked by your act was the response that you making R. Kelly jokes is normalizing R. Kelly and what he did. And he goes, yeah, I thought that was weird too. And she goes, well, my question is, why isn't you making jokes about trans people normalizing trans people? And it's kind of a valid point. I mean, if telling a joke about somebody is validating them in your point of view, in one case, why is it not in the other? Because he's not saying that trans people are garbage or freaks and they need to be killed. It's not like an 80s hack comedian who gets up there and just rips off homophobic shit.
What's up with chicks with dicks?
Yeah, it's not that. I mean, he's basically making fun of the entire situation from top to bottom. And it's like, okay, well, if you're doing that, and that's to R. Kelly, and that's normalizing R. Kelly. Well,
he's making fun of the situation from top to bottom surgery.
Hey-oh.
Well, he did say, he goes, and then we had a few more drinks, and then I fucked her. It's like, no, I didn't fuck her, but I reached down there and I was like, well, it feels like a pussy.
The idea of normalizing, I think, is interesting, because I don't think that making jokes about one person can normalize their behavior. Making jokes about, R. Kelly or Michael Jackson or somebody like that, I don't see where the normalizing that behavior comes from. I think you can do that with groups of people by making jokes by accepting that, it's almost like by putting LGBTQ in his act at all, he's kind of saying, you're one of us, and just like everybody else, you're a fair target.
Yeah, I'm making fun of every motherfucker in this room.
Right.
Welcome to my show.
So in that way, it does normalize it.
And he addressed, he got some flack apparently for not wanting to be in Surviving R. Kelly. And he said, the whole reason I said no is because I don't know him.
Yeah, he pointed out, he goes, the only thing I know about R. Kelly is what everyone else knows, what's reported in the news.
Why did they want him to be in it?
Probably because of his, drip, 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 that whole skit.
Well, that, and didn't he say that the director was a friend of his before? And she came to him, and it was like 2 years before that her documentary come out. She asked him to be in it, and he was like, no, I don't know him. Why would I be in it? And then she said, Dave Chappelle's, which, here you go, marketing at its best. Dave Chappelle said this documentary is too hot for TV. And he goes, I would never, that's some corny ass shit. You picture me saying some shit like that? Because I never fucking said that. No, overall, I think this is one of the better ones I've seen in the last 5 years. I mean, I think that it shows that, one, he knows his audience, and two, he's comfortable with his audience, because this ain't going to buy it. If you don't like him, you're not going to watch this and have some epiphany and go, oh, I get him all of a sudden. Well, for the most part, I guess there might be a few people that are like that, but in today's day and age where something that happened 40 years ago can be brought up, and there's people clamoring to just erase you from history, I think it takes balls for him to go, you know what, I said the shit and I stand by it. And
so,
unregimented.
ChristopherMedia.net. ChristopherMedia.net.
Unregimented.
Here's another thing that I'm interested in. With the Dave Chappelle special coming out recently, and also a lot of news about Eddie Murphy. He's got the Dolomite documentary that's coming out. They're working on a sequel to Coming to America. Eddie Murphy's going to be hosting SNL for the first time in forever. So this kind of seems like Eddie Murphy's comeback, and there's been a lot of comparisons between the two as being, super popular black comedians. But if we're just talking about comedian, I don't really see a lot of comparison. It's just a fact. It's just the super famous and black part that's the same. Because Eddie Murphy's Eddie Murphy is kind of a different comedian. He's not Chappelle has a lot more in common with Richard Pryor. Right?
Oh yeah,
Richard Pryor was a little too honest with his comedy.
You think I don't know what this is?
Right? And maybe that's part of why Eddie Murphy just kind of went away for a while, because comedy started going more the Richard Pryor route, where comedians were expected to talk about their lives, were expected to at least seem like they were opening up on stage. We wanted less of the shtick and the one-liners and the props, and we wanted more honesty from our comedians, and we got it. And I don't think that either that just wasn't Eddie Murphy, or he just wasn't willing to go there. He wasn't willing to, because he always has had this kind of mystique to him, right? Everybody's heard stories about Eddie Murphy, but do you ever come off of watching an Eddie Murphy stand-up or seeing him in a movie or even in an interview and feeling like something more about that person?
Maybe like Raw.
I think, yeah. Delirious even more so, but
we're talking about shit that's 30 years old.
He made jokes about his own life, but I don't feel like I knew anything about his life. It was all still exaggerated.
Well, I mean, not every celebrity is comfortable with putting their personal shit out there. And Eddie Murphy was something that Dave Chappelle was like a TV star. And when and his reasons are well documented for walking away from his show and taking a different route career-wise. I think Eddie Murphy was like, I want to grab that brass ring, and you gotta navigate those waters very carefully. And if you're aiming for movie star status, which I know we rip on his movies and shit from the 90s, but he had some hits in there. He had some big. I mean, Nutty Professor, whatever you think about it, that made a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
Enough for a sequel. Same thing with Dr. Dolittle.
Yeah, and we always forget, too, he was in the Shrek movies.
Yeah, and, I mean, he played the game so well. He ended up in, what was that musical? Oh, shit.
Right, but he wasn't, he wasn't thought of as a comedian anymore, right? He was an actor. You'd have to tell your kid, that guy that was voicing Donkey, yeah, he used to do stand-up. You should never watch it until you're 21, but...
Yeah.
21? Damn. All right.
Yeah, dude, I was like 12.
My great-grandmother took me to see Raw at the movie theater. That's no bullshit either. That's not, they fucked up because they got there and the scene opens with Samuel L. Jackson playing his his crazy uncle and the kids putting on a talent show, and they thought it was a movie, and then he's on stage talking about what he's talking about. They're like, it's too late now. Cat's out of the bag.
The reason I'm leaning older is because it's not just a question of, being old enough to process the language and the subject matter, because it's not really about that. It's, it's just, it's one thing to having grown up with Eddie Murphy's stand-ups, and, when I was a kid, we were all throwing Eddie Murphy lines back and forth from these, very adult-oriented stand-up specials that he had. We knew him by heart. So,
in my house,
but Gus. It's one thing to go back and enjoy that and go, yeah, Eddie Murphy was really funny. But somebody who's never seen an Eddie Murphy stand-up and you sit them down and watch, they're not going to think that's funny.
See, and all I'm thinking of is
too sticky. Why is he all sweaty and wearing so much leather? He's offensive.
All I'm thinking of is his skit about Bill Cosby's kid going to see his show at 14. Yeah. Coming home and just And the boy had a look on his face like he'd heard something he never heard before.
Foul filth.
Phil.
Well, what did the man say? The man come out on stage and said things, Pop. I know, but what did he say? The man come out and said, hey, fuck you, suck my dick, get my big black stuff and shove it down your throat and fuck it, suck it, suck it. He goes, I don't come out and say that shit. You can't put on no fuck show. You ain't gonna come here and listen to me cuss for 2 hours. I managed some jokes in there.
Tell Bill to have a Coke and a smile and shut the fuck
up. See, I think maybe, like I said, maybe Eddie Murphy was trying to play the Hollywood game, and he realized his stand-up could come back to bite him in the ass. And I mean, to an extent, it has, because there has been people with this. Seems like him, his career revival here. There's certain groups of people that are upset by it, but for the most part, I don't think this dog's going to hunt for him. Most people have good memories of Eddie Murphy. They understand that jokes were a product of their time. You know what I'm saying? I don't think they feel that Eddie Murphy goes around and like looks for the gay police to pick him up and, harass him and feel him up at the San Francisco airport.
I can't believe it.
Yeah. But what makes Eddie Murphy different? Like Eddie Murphy's going to have this big renaissance where he's going to be, not voicing a donkey, but his face is going to be all over big movies and on TV. Why does he get a pass that everybody else doesn't for making, offensive jokes about gay people? I'm not saying this like I feel like he should be held accountable for it. I'm just confused as to, why some comedians can get away with this and others can't.
Ooh, his white privilege.
We are wildly inconsistent.
Yeah.
What'd you say, Rich? White privilege.
And then I realized that, he's not on that step of the oppression ladder, so he can't.
Right.
Yeah.
What's the
he
thing?
Can't claim that.
It's like, if you want to tell me, look, old man, this is a new day and we've got new rules and we have new expectations from people. Okay, that's great. That happens. What are the new rules? Well, it's kind of tricky. It's actually really inconsistent, and it's really just comes down to people that we don't like or do like. All right, well, that's not. We don't have new rules. we haven't set up a new structure. We've just decided to gang up on random people. That's
good comedians. Good comedians have to navigate a minefield. Good comedians these days have to navigate a minefield that has a lot more mines in it. That's about it. And I, to be honest with you, I'm leery about Eddie Murphy's stand-up because if it comes out and he doesn't go for the throat and it's toothless, I'm going to be like, oh, you lost it, man. You got scared. If he comes out and he just fucking does not give a fuck and it's funny and it's along the lines of something like a Chappelle or a Carlin would do, where, yeah, he's saying things that are offensive to people, but those people don't matter to him, so it's mind over matter. If I don't mind you, you don't matter to me. If he has that attitude, it could be a great special.
I don't know. I think he's older.
I think there's actually a danger of him trying to push the envelope because he's not. He's never been to me a Carlin type. I think he should just lean on his strengths.
Well, I'll tell you, how many fucking marriages and divorces does he have in his rearview mirror? He got a lot of traction out of the fear of getting married in Raw. He could probably do a whole special on, well, now I've been there X amount of times. I should have listened to myself. That type thing. I think that's probably what he'll probably go to. He'll probably be doing that type of comedy, and I honestly don't think he's going to get heavily political because I don't think I've ever seen Eddie Murphy get heavily political.
No, I don't think so.
I mean, you're right. I want to see jokes from Eddie Murphy about, just for example, what it's like to be trying to pick up women in your 60s, because he's always getting divorced and shit. But I don't want him to do 45 minutes on his last divorce.
Well, I mean, he could do excuse me, he could probably do an hour just getting up there and telling Charlie Murphy stories and people pay to see it. And I'm not even joking. If you've ever heard one of the things Eddie Murphy doesn't get credit for is his ability to do impressions and characters. I think that gets lost a lot. and his impersonation of his brother is dead nuts on. If you've ever seen the Actors Studio with him, you close your eyes, you think you're listening to Charlie Murphy talk. And if he has half the stories that a guy like Chappelle has about Charlie Murphy, he could probably do a special like, you know, I mean, he can't pay an homage to Bill Cosby with, what was that Bill Cosby album? To My Brother
Russell,
whom I slept with. Yeah. He can't do like, you know, To My Brother Charlie, who we did coke in the 80s with. You know what I'm saying? But who knows what he's got up his sleeve? I think it's the Dolomite autobiography or biopic. It seems like it's going to be one of those things that's funny because of the subject matter, but it also seems like there's going to be some serious heavy shit in there.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, when I said like he could go the route like Chappelle and Carlin, I meant more as like, I don't give a fuck if people are upset. I'm going to say what I'm going to say, not the style of what he's doing. I think he's more going for, even if he's heading towards, I'll put it this way, Robin Williams type, because he's proven he can act. Yeah. And if you've seen some of the he's made a handful of independent movies that are just.
Robin Williams never looked back. Right? As soon as he started doing like serious movies, he was like, all right.
No, he had a stand-up special in the 2000s, and
did he?
Yeah,
all right.
I remember because he was talking about I guess he had been off coke for X amount of years, but he had just given up booze, and I remember his skit about that. And I was like, oh my God, Robin Williams on coke. I couldn't deal with that. That's just too much Robin Williams.
Did you ever watch his HBO special from like the early 80s? That's Robin Williams on coke.
On coke. Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. And I can't sit through the whole thing. I'm like, it's just too much Robin Williams.
You could tell he was going backstage to do bumps during his set. He was disguising him as fucking costume changes, but he's coming back and all of a sudden he's fucking pouring sweat and he's red-faced.
Yeah.
See, that's just an amateur right there. What you do is you get yourself a beer can, you put a little bump on the side of the can, you act like, not that I've done this, but I mean, you know, and you know, you get your little bump and you get your little drink, you know, and you can kind of wipe your nose all in one swift motion, and you know, most people in the audience don't know the difference. Once again, so I've heard.
That's the rumor?
That's the rumor. Well, I of all the stuff coming out, even the stand-up special that apparently he's going to record or has recorded and are getting ready to release, of all the stuff that Eddie Murphy's got his fingers in, I'm worried about Coming to America 2 the most. Because I'm just like,
yeah,
should you even try to top that? Like, it's kind of like the Jay and Silent Bob reboot. Like, I like the idea, but when I saw the trailer, I was like, oof, it's just, something's not the same. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's...
Yeah, they're like 50.
That's the project I'm looking the most forward to, even more so than the Dolomite movie.
I mean, I saw, like, you know, how the paparazzi will get the shots of him on set in costume and stuff, and I'm like, okay, so everything looks legit. They're not going crazy with it. You know what I'm saying? It looks like the same movie universe, but
I think honestly, this project practically writes itself, and it's their hit to fuck up, and not that they couldn't, that the studio or somebody couldn't fuck it up. Certainly seen it happen before with big movies, but yeah, I mean,
in the one defense I will make, I've seen none of it. But, I mean, when we were kids, sequels were seen as cheesy and usually flops. I think that's gone now.
Yeah.
Oh, quite a bit. Quite a bit. My thing is, I'm hoping for Beverly Hills Cop 2. I'm afraid we're going to get Beverly Hills Cop 3. That's the easiest way to explain it.
Getting the money grab?
Yeah, just like, no. But... like I said, everything I haven't seen any footage or anything, but the pictures and everything, everybody looks on point. Looks like they're going the right way with it. So he can't do the barbershop characters, right? That's 30 years ago. Those guys would be 100. So
I saw a picture of Arsenio Hall in makeup as one of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh shit. There'll be 100-year-old guys in the barbershop.
Oh, no, wait, no. No, he wasn't one. No, he was the preacher. My bad.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That boy good.
You can take the pictures, but only God can make that.
Yeah.
Oh shit. So, since we're on the subject of movies, real quick, did either of you guys? I know it's a stretch to ask you, Chris, but I'm going to anyways. See the new teaser trailer, I guess, for the Star Wars movie?
Not yet.
Yes, I did.
Okay. The only thing I took away from that, like I said, and you already know about this part, Chris, because we talked about it in the pre-show chat, is the Swiss Army lightsaber, the double-sided lightsaber that Rey's holding, and she like flicks it and it locks in place. And I'm just like, I'm not buying that. That's like a dream or something or a vision. Rey does not know. You don't have the time to set it up to where Rey turns to the dark side and comes back, and we give a fuck. You'd have had to do that, like, you'd had to sow the seeds a little bit earlier, I'm thinking. So I'm thinking that's a pretty big misdirection in that.
I heard that in the actual footage in the movie, she goes on to then flip out a fork and a corkscrew. and
pulls a toothpick from it.
A toothpick, a pair of tweezers, lightsaber tweezers. Not very useful, but...
One thing I did see on the internets is, too, aren't people losing their shit because C-3PO has red eyes?
Yeah, he must be a Microsoft robot. He's got the red ring of death. Nothing? No one had a 360 to die on him? Okay, well, moving on.
PlayStation guy here.
Now that I I pulled the e-brake on the podcast. Didn't mean to pull a Maz away, sorry. Oh,
I didn't even notice.
Yeah, his red arm is gone. But like I said, to me, that's just like, okay, so he's got his golden arm back. His red arm that they never explained is gone. And now he has red eyes. It's some sort of vision or dream or some shit. I'm just like, come on, man. We can't fall for that okey doke. I just that's the only thing I took from it. Like I still
don't think that's a Rey clone.
Well, see, now that's the one theory that kind of made sense, and it is in the expanded universe. The Emperor had himself cloned like ridiculous amounts of times, and if he could clone himself, and they could clone an army, they could clone other people, and he could transfer his Force spirit into it. So that clone is a clone of Rey with the spirit of the Emperor Palpatine in it. And I'm like, wow, that's a hell of a J.J. Abrams mystery box if that's the story.
Maybe. I was thinking more along the lines, actually, of Rey just being a clone, period. Because first of all, if you're cloning people, why wouldn't you try and clone the Skywalker line? It only makes sense that somebody would put the two and two together on that and go, wait a minute, we can clone a whole army of men. Why aren't we trying to clone the most powerful man in the galaxy? He has the most powerful bloodline in the galaxy. Definitely they'd be trying to clone that. And it also perfectly explains why Rey's parents were nobody, because she was probably raised by, she was probably essentially adopted because she was cloned.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm just putting this out there. If someone's handing out clones of Daisy Ridley, send one my way.
It would also explain some of the stuff of why she was able to, do all this shit so easily and all this Jedi power, and she seems even more powerful. Like, yeah, if they're cloning Jedis, then they're going to, tailor those clones to be as adept at the Force as possible.
Oh shit! And I just thought of this. the Mandalorian, the series. Mm-hmm. I thought that was pre episodes 1 through 3. Apparently, it's post episode 6, pre episode 7.
Yes.
So they could tie her cloning and bring her back in the series in some way in there. Yeah. Well, there you go. That's what I hadn't thought of and I hadn't read about. So there you go, folks. We just saved you some money. Aaron just told you the twist in the movie. No need to go see it in December. Chris, we are lucky to have the podcast co-host we do. We have Earl who can predict football shit, and we have someone who can predict movies on Unregimented. We are surrounded by psychic geniuses. Fuck, I might not even get my crystal ball out of the shop. Just ask Aaron or Earl. We're good.
top-notch
Well,
prognosticators.
if I was looking at my crystal ball a month ago, I would have told you that the New Mutants movie is never coming out. But looks like it's still on the slate. We may actually see this thing.
And the cool part that I heard, and I believe I heard it from you first, was that this is going to be almost like a horror movie.
Well, that's interesting. So we saw the original trailer, which was kind of sparse, but definitely leaned heavily into horror elements. And that was the original intent of the director. Now they've since cut this movie, and not a lot of people have seen it, but there are reports of it not leaning so heavily on the horror elements. It's also seems to be testing really well with Disney's test audiences. So yeah, and then right after we heard the news about the fact that they had recut New Mutants and it was testing well, we also started seeing more behind the scenes type photos being put out to the press. So yeah, Disney's not going to put out a bunch of BTS pics of something that they put up on a shelf.
Well, also, wasn't there rumors that they were going to turn it into a television show?
I didn't know. I don't know about any of those.
Okay.
I think it's a good idea. I think that New Mutants would be the perfect thing to do as a mutant related TV show. But yeah, unfortunately, that's the thing with it. I want to see this movie because I want to see a fucking New Mutants movie. X-Men were my thing, but New Mutants more so than any other book. And I've never seen any version of the New Mutants outside of the comics. They never brought them into any of the X-Men cartoons. They've never had anything, any kind of project that was focused around those characters outside of comics. This would be the first one.
Yeah, that is strange now that I think about it.
I want to see it, but I also kind of don't want it to come out because I don't want to fall in love with these versions of the New Mutants and know that I'm never going to get anything else. I almost would them rather shelve this and put out a movie that doesn't have a theme. It's just about characters, and there's a potential for growth there. I want to see a series of New Mutants because that was part of what I loved about the original comic series is you were watching these kids grow up. So just giving them one movie and having it be a quote unquote themed movie, a genre type movie, sure, it could be cool. I mean, there's a lot of horror elements to the New Mutants. I can understand why they'd want to go there. But I think if you do that with your first movie with that property, then you don't have anywhere else to go. New Mutants was a dark fucking book. At times even darker than the X-Men. There's a lot of just like body horror in there as well, especially when you get to Warlock, who was a techno-organic being, an alien. And the only person on the team that could communicate with him at first was Doug Cypher, who everyone thought had the most useless mutant power, which is the ability to communicate with anything. But I always thought was like one of the strongest mutant powers that you could have. They just, I think, didn't know how to use it. So often the character was just like, oh, Doug got winged and he's sitting back there, and we'll throw a bandage on his arm and drag him along to the next adventure where he'll get thrown in a cage somewhere so we can take him off off the set for the big battle scene. But when Warlock came around, that actually gave Doug some agency because the two of them bonded both mentally and physically so that Warlock could protect Doug. It was almost like a suit of armor for him. So yeah, I mean, I've got a lot of love for these characters. And, if you really want to tell the story of the New Mutants, it's not just about, what happened one night in the Xavier mansion. There's a lot more story to be told there. And I don't know. I just feel like with as much as Marvel has to handle now, with not only introducing characters that they've had in the works forever now, we're getting Moon Knight and She-Hulk and Miss Marvel. But now they've got all these properties that they got from Fox, and they have to roll that out. So, we're going to get the X-Men, and then eventually we're going to get the Fantastic Four. The New Mutants aren't in that plan, but I'm sure eventually they would get around to that.
Just understand, Disney, if you introduce Power Pack before the New Mutants, we riot.
Yeah. Sure.
Just understand that.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that
so
means.
I feel like this if this movie gets released, that's just going to push it that much further back before Disney's willing to reboot it. But who knows? Maybe it could be super successful. Maybe this movie just blows people away, and they actually do continue to make movies in their own little universe. But in general, it doesn't seem like Disney has any interest in that. I mean, they've shown some interest in making another Deadpool film because those movies were crazy successful and have a rabid cult following. So they'd be stupid to just leave that money on the table.
The one thing
but other than that, they're not looking to anything that any hero that they put out there is going to have to fit into their bigger Marvel universe in some way.
The one thing that I'll give Marvel under Disney is they've been so successful that they seem like Disney's like, okay, you can have a little bit more leash. Like with them talking about making the next Doctor Strange more like a horror movie, et cetera, et cetera. Like, okay, you can take some chances because so far you haven't turned us down the wrong road. I mean, if they're sitting on a movie in the can, they're not going to sit on it long if they think they can make money off of it. It's Disney here. Come on now. And if this new Doctor Strange movie comes out and it is a little bit like it's maybe a hard PG-13 and it has horror elements and it does huge box office, I doubt it'll take long for someone to dust off the print of the New Mutants and be like, hey, we got this too. Kind of along the same lines, a little bit.
And we're either going to see this New Mutants movie next year or not at all.
Well, isn't the Doctor Strange movie coming out next year? I retract the question. I can't follow the fucking timeline. I read it one time and I was like, there's like 10 movies coming out in 3 years. Holy shit. And TV shows and everything. So,
but yeah, that's what I'm saying with the New Mutants. Having their first movie be horror themed is a really weird choice. If that first Doctor Strange movie was horror themed, where do you go from there? The fact that they're leaning into that for the second film makes a lot of sense. But if they did that with the first film, so then what? All the Doctor Strange films are going to be horror themed? You have to establish your characters first. You can take them to other places.
Fair enough. Because To me, it's like if he starts hopping to different universes and stuff, they can introduce characters that would be in the different universes or different realms or whatever. And oh shit, who's the stand-in for the devil in the Marvel? Mephisto? Is that him? Yeah. They could introduce him through Doctor Strange and. So that I guess it could be there if it makes money, they're gonna run it to the ground. Just like the next Thor is gonna be more like Ragnarok than Thor 2, and that's a good thing, by the way, because Thor 2 was ponderous,
it's a slog, yeah.
All right, well
then. This is the part where I just remind you where we're at on social media and on Regimented Pod. Email us on Regimented to ChristopherMedia.net. Wow. Yeah. Time to end the show. If you want to donate, be like Dawn, you can hit the PayPal button at ChristopherMedia.net. We got an Amazon button. Christmas is coming up, so please make use of that. Please and thank you. We're on Spreaker.com, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, ChristopherMedia.net. And I'm sure I forgot something, but if it's a podcatcher, we're there. Check us out every Saturday, and we'll catch you next week.
See ya.
Later, guys.
unregimented.
ChristopherMedia.net. ChristopherMedia.net.
If you like this show, please tell a friend. Please make sure to rate and comment on all your favorite Christopher Media shows. Please follow us on Twitter and like and share us on Facebook. You can subscribe to all ChristopherMedia.net shows for free on ChristopherMedia.net. Thank you for listening, and thank you for visiting ChristopherMedia.net.
Thank you for visiting ChristopherMedia.net.